My name is Lisa, and moving to this neighborhood was supposed to be a fresh start for me and my husband. A quiet place, a new beginning. It was a sunny afternoon when I first met him. I was carrying heavy grocery bags, struggling to make it home. That's when he pulled up in his car. "Need some help?" he asked, rolling down the window. He had an easy smile, the kind that made you instantly feel comfortable. "I don't want to bother you," I said, but he shook his head. "It's no bother at all. Hop in. I'll drop you off." I hesitated for a moment, but the groceries were heavy, and the house wasn't far. "Thank you," I said, getting into the car. As we drove, he introduced himself. "I'm Ryan," he said. "I live just a few houses down. My mom mentioned someone new moved in." "Nice to meet you, Ryan," I replied. "I'm Lisa. My husband and I just moved in last week." He nodded, his eyes briefly meeting mine before focusing back on the road. When we reached the house, he helped me carry the bags to the door. "If you ever need anything, let me know," he said with a grin. "Welcome to the neighborhood." "Thank you, Ryan," I said, watching him walk back to his car. There was something about his confidence, his easygoing nature, that stayed with me. Later that evening, my husband asked how my day went. "Good," I said, keeping the interaction with Ryan to myself. I wasn't sure why. The next time I saw Ryan, I was out watering the garden. He jogged past the house, his athletic frame catching my attention. "Hey, Lisa," he called out, waving. "Hi, Ryan," I replied, trying to sound casual. "How's the neighborhood treating you?" he asked, stopping to catch his breath. "It's nice," I said. "Peaceful." We talked for a few minutes. Nothing too deep, just small talk about the weather, the neighbors. But the way he looked at me, his gaze lingering just a little too long, made my heart race. "I should let you get back to your run," I said, feeling the tension building. "See you around, Lisa," he said, his smile lingering as he jogged off. That evening, I couldn't get him out of my mind. There was something about his energy, his confidence, that felt different, and it scared me how much I noticed it. The days went by, and I started seeing him more often. A casual wave here, a short conversation there. Each time, the connection between us grew stronger. One afternoon, I was struggling to fix a broken garden hose when he appeared again. "Need some help?" he asked, his voice warm and teasing. "I think it's beyond saving," I joked, holding up the twisted hose. Ryan stepped closer, his arm brushing against mine as he inspected it. "You just need the right tools," he said, his tone playful. As he fixed the hose, we talked more about his studies, his plans for the future. "I'm 22, by the way," he said at one point, as if sensing my unspoken question. "That's a good age," I said, smiling. "Lots of opportunities ahead of you." He glanced at me, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. "What about you, Lisa? Are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. "Of course," I said quickly, but my voice wavered. Ryan didn't push, but the look in his eyes said he knew more than I was willing to admit. "All done," he said, standing up and handing me the fixed hose. "If you need anything else, just call me." His hand brushed against mine for a moment, just long enough to make me catch my breath. That night, as I lay in bed next to my husband, I couldn't stop thinking about Ryan. His smile, his touch, the way he made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. The next weekend, my husband had to leave for a business trip. "I'll be back late Sunday," he said, kissing me goodbye. I smiled, but inside, my thoughts were elsewhere. That evening, as I sat in the living room, there was a knock at the door. It was Ryan, holding a small box. "I baked some cookies," he said, grinning. Thought you might want some. How thoughtful, I said, stepping aside to let him in. Come in. I'll make us some tea. He followed me into the kitchen, his presence filling the quiet house. As the water boiled, we talked about everything and nothing, but the tension between us was undeniable. His eyes lingered on mine, and I found it hard to look away. You're different, Lisa, he said suddenly, his voice soft. There's something about you, something I can't ignore. His words sent a shiver down my spine. Ryan, I began, my voice shaky. This isn't right, but he stepped closer, his gaze locking onto mine. Maybe not, he said, but it feels real. Before I could respond, he leaned in, his lips brushing against mine. For a moment, I froze, torn between what I knew was wrong and what I felt in my heart. I pulled away, my breath shaky. This can't happen, I said. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew I didn't mean them. He didn't push, but the look in his eyes said it all. The next day, I tried to avoid him, but it was impossible. Every time I saw him, the memory of that moment replayed in my mind, and the pull between us grew stronger. That evening, as the sun set, Ryan appeared at the door again. I couldn't stay away, he admitted, his voice raw with emotion. I don't want to stay away. I let him in, knowing exactly what I was doing. The house was quiet, the air thick with tension. As he stepped closer, I didn't resist. This time, I didn't pull away. It was a moment that felt both wrong and inevitable. His touch was gentle, his kisses urgent, and for a while, the rest of the world disappeared. Afterward, we sat in silence, the reality of what had just happened sinking in. I don't regret it, he said softly, his hand brushing against mine. Do you? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My heart was racing, my mind a blur. All I knew was that my life had just become a lot more complicated. The days after that night were a blur. Ryan and I couldn't stay away from each other. Every stolen glance, every moment we spent together, felt electrifying. He started finding more reasons to come by, fixing things that didn't need fixing, offering to help with errands. And I didn't stop him. I didn't want to stop him. One afternoon, while my husband was at work, Ryan showed up unannounced. I needed to see you, he said, his voice low and urgent. My heart raced as I let him in. We sat in the living room, the silence between us heavy. This isn't sustainable, I said, breaking the silence. But Ryan leaned closer, his gaze locking onto mine. It doesn't have to be forever, he said. But we can't ignore what we feel. His words were both comforting and terrifying, and in that moment, I gave in again. The weeks turned into months, and our secret became harder to hide. But my husband remained blissfully unaware, wrapped up in his work and his routine. Ryan and I became experts at sneaking around. A quick touch here, a secret meeting there. It was risky, but the thrill of it all made it impossible to stop. But as time went on, the weight of our secret began to take its toll. I found myself avoiding my husband more, feeling the guilt gnawing at me. One evening, as Ryan and I sat in the car after another stolen moment, he said, I think it's time we stop. His voice was firm, but his eyes were filled with regret. Stop, I asked, my heart sinking. I can't keep doing this. Lisa, he said softly, you have a life, a husband. This isn't fair to anyone. I knew he was right, but the thought of letting him go was unbearable. I don't want to lose you, I whispered. But Ryan shook his head. We'll always have this. But it's time to move on. The next week, my husband and I packed our things and moved to a new neighborhood. A fresh start, once again. But this time, I left a part of myself behind. As we drove away, I glanced back at the house. the memories flooding my mind. Ryan stood at his window, watching us leave. Our eyes met one last time. Now, as I sit in my new home, I often think about those months. The stolen moments, the forbidden connection. A part of me regrets it, but another part longs for it. I'll never forget Ryan, the way he made me feel alive. But some things are better left in the past, no matter how much they change you. It's been years since those days in that neighborhood. I've moved on, or at least I try to tell myself that I have. But sometimes, the memories creep back in. The thrill, the excitement, it all felt so intense in the moment. But now, when I think about it, all I feel is regret. A momentary rush isn't worth losing your integrity. I often ask myself, why did I do it? I had a good husband, a stable life, but I let my emotions, my selfish desires, take control, and it cost me more than I realized. Ryan and I haven't spoken since the day we left that neighborhood. He was young, full of life and dreams. I often wonder if I derailed his path, even if just for a moment. But the real damage was within me. I betrayed the man who trusted me the most. My husband still doesn't know, and I carry that guilt with me every single day. If I could go back in time, I would change everything. Not because of fear of being caught, but because I've learned the hard way that loyalty is priceless. Moments of temptation come and go, but the damage they leave behind lasts forever. I traded something real and solid for something fleeting, and it wasn't worth it. Now, I focus on rebuilding what I broke within myself. My marriage, my life, they are still intact, but I know I'll never fully shake the weight of my choices. To anyone listening to my story, don't let a fleeting moment of emotion ruin something precious. It might feel exciting at the time, but the pain that follows is immeasurable. I share this not to excuse myself, but to warn others. Learn from my mistakes. Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. The consequences are never worth it. As I sit here today, I've accepted my past, but it doesn't mean I've forgotten. Some choices stay with you forever, and this is my story.